Valentine's Day. A day of love, flowers, and chocolates, or whatever it is you do that day. Today, I'm going to be making a Valentine-themed checkered cake. And for that, I'll need 3 different colors. I'm going to be using white, light pink, and hot pink. And, excuse this really bad editing right here. That was me trying to do some fancy stuff. I've got a full set of rounded cookie cutters, and I've chosen 3 victims to assist in cutting all the cake layers. I'm starting with the lightest color first, and the reason for that is a lot of times the darker colors tend to bleed and touch, like when it touches other colors, it kind of just melds onto it and it makes it look bad. So starting with the white, I'm going to cut out the biggest, and then from the biggest I'll cut out the medium, and then from the medium, goes to the small. You get the drift. Either way, that's what we're doing right now. For some reason, I do tend to have a hard time when I use these cookie cutters, like getting the clay out afterwards. So I'm literally just trying to use a X-Acto knife to poke it out, but maybe not with the right side. Well, actually it's the right side, but my eye was kind of close to the knife, so that wasn't a good judgment call. Also, excuse my voice right now because it's late at night and I'm trying to get this audio completed, and my voice sounds like death, and it's not even Halloween, so just ignore that fact and enjoy the video. Alright, there's some more of that sketchy editing. Alright, so now basically I'm just going to build the cake layers one by one, making sure I'm alternating colors so that each cake layer has a different color in it. And then once I got the layers ready, I ended up with 6, but I actually only need 3 for the cake. I also cut a few additional white, slightly thinner layers out to be like the cream in the middle of the cake, and then I can just start building the cake. So it'll be bullseye layer, cream layer, and then just keep alternating until you have all of your layers stacked and ready to go. I did make sure to round the cake off and do a little smushing to ensure everything was adhering to each other. But also I don't want to distort the shape too much, so I'm trying to be gentle with it. I have a little pink clay that I rolled into a snake, and then I'm going to add like 2 white snakes of clay to it as well, because I kind of wanted a fancy fondant on the outside, but kind of like a ribbon color, if that makes sense at all. I usually just cut off the ends, just trying to make it a little bit more even. And then I'm also going to add 2 red snakes of clay to make the border of this so-called fancy fondant. So what I'm going to do after that is I'm basically going to roll it out a little bit and then just slowly start stretching and rolling it, and that will kind of make the design appear a little bit more clean cut and pretty. But it's so much easier to achieve this if you have a pasta machine, which I do. I was just too lazy to get it. So that's the thing. Of course, you're going to have to cut off the edges, so that's what I'm doing. Cutting off these ugly tips, and then cutting off this jagged lines, and then just making it a little bit more even. And once you do that, basically just wrapping this, I'm going to call this a fruit roll up because that's what it reminds me of. I'm wrapping this fruit roll up around the edges of the cake, and that's just to make the decorations on the outside. As I was saying, this is the fondant, the fancy fondant. I did end up having to trim off the excess with the X-Acto knife just to make sure it was even. And then I also did have to blend the seams with a blending tool to refine it a bit. But I wasn't able to do a smooth blend because, like I mentioned earlier, their colors kept bleeding, like especially the red. Even if I touched it just a little bit with the little blending tool, it kind of smudged into the pink and then the white, so forth and so on. So I have this little heart-shaped cutter that's going to be like my cookie cutter for these macarons that I'm about to make. I really wanted to use like white icing for the middle of all of the macarons, and then I used like the leftover colors from the cake layers for the cookies, and then I just textured the edges like around the cookie to appear like real macarons, because you know they do have those. Look it up, you'll see little air holes on them. And then basically you just build it. Build your macarons, whatever color you use. But I used pink, like I said. And I used red, hot pink, and white. Now for the cake. While I was doing that, I chilled the cake to make it easier to cut. And now it's time to cut out a few slices and see the result. And the big reveal. I don't like that. The layers don't look all that refined to me. I think I kind of failed on this, but let's keep going anyway. While I was texturing this, I was peering over to the side like, I think I can make another cake with the leftovers, but do I really want to bother with that? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. I made another cake off camera, and this is how it came out. Of course, I have to take another slice out of it first so we can see the inside. I went with red this time. So the results on this one is it came out much better. Good job, you goof. You did some right. I textured this one too, and I have to say I really like the colors. Once I textured the cake, it really looks pretty good. And here they are side by side. I actually kind of think the pink one doesn't look too bad. I whipped up some like vanilla frosting and like added it to the cream layers inside the cake, and then I'm also gonna cover the top with it as well, because that's how we're gonna stick on those macarons a little bit later. For some reason, frosting is always hard to make, but it's fun to apply. I don't get that fanny dooley. I also wanted to make this a drip cake, so I added the same frosting down the sides of the cake as well, and this did take a while to do, and I think it was a little bit uneven how I applied it, but it worked out for the best. Now I just need to add the macarons on top. Each cake will get 4 macarons of alternating color. And it's looking good, y'all. I struggled to get this result for real. All that's left to do is gloss the cake. I actually made this little faux crystal plate, but it came out wonky. There are a lot of bubbles and it's a little flimsy, but it'll do for a quick display. And that's it. They both surprisingly came out well, so I didn't have to make the second cake after all, but I'm actually still glad I did. So let's see what crappy crafts I can come up with in the next video. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye!